Shalom, Kal Halalim, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakudash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of GMS Ruwell, who I learned this truth from, and salutations and blessings to you elect out there, starting with the 144,000 on down. So the title of this lesson is A Narrow Journey, and this is the journey that the prophets are on, right? The men of the Lord, all right, you brothers that are on this path, we're walking this path of narrowness. And the word narrow, it means of little width, not width or broad, constricted, limited, petty. Petty means small. Okay, that's where you get the word petite from. Causing difficulty, right? Oppressive, strict, severe. And that makes me think of the scripture about, the chains of discipline in the book of Sirach, how she will torment him with her discipline, talking about wisdom, the fetters and the constricting instruments. Figuratively, you come into truth and you're restricted. Okay, your diet has to change. If you love pork, which majority of us love pork, I love pork in the world. Okay, because they made pork taste good and look good and smell good, right? Shrimp, right? Lobster, all these different foods. Your way of thinking, okay? Any kind of lust and adultery, right? So you got to change your ways and your thinking. And this is, of course, at first restricting to the flesh. The flesh wants to hang out, literally hang out, um, and keep going, right? So let's go to the book of Matthew 7:13 in the KJV. Actually, I'll get this in the AMP. It reads, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad and easy to travel that leads the way to destruction and eternal loss. And there are many who enter through it." And that's this world, right? Again, this world is just, feed into your desires, feed your craving, do as thou wilt, right? But small is the gate, and narrow and difficult to travel is the path that leads the way to everlasting life, and there are few who find it. In the NLT, it says you can enter the Most High's kingdom only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad, right? They had that song back in the day, which was huge. It's still huge. I'm on a highway to hell, right? Hell just means what? Death, Hades, destruction, right? Which is a lifestyle. And its gate is wide for the many who choose that way, but the gateway to life is very narrow, and the road is difficult, and only a few ever find it. Okay? Greek, the road that leads to destruction, the highway to destruction. A highway, you're on a accelerated accelerated speed towards destruction, which is the lust of the flesh, the serving the body and the flesh, right? Which the wages of sin is what? The wages of sin is death. You're slowly destroying yourself and people around you. Now I got this word a little deeper on Grok. So I'm going to read. It says the full picture in Matthew 7:13. Yahushai pairs this Greek word narrow gate with a different word for the way or road. Okay, gate means narrow, constricted, way, perfect participle, pressed, compressed, or afflicted. Okay, and these Greek words, they don't pronounce them, right? It says tribulation, affliction. So the road is not merely narrow in a geographical sense, it is a pressured, squeezed, difficult path. See, that's why you can ask AI, go deeper. I asked to go deeper into this word, and listed a bunch of things, and I like these 2 points, 5 to 7 actually, 3 points. Okay, 5, 6, 7. You can ask Grok or Chat. Grok goes a little better because I asked Chat and it didn't give me what I needed, and Grok went deeper, right? So it says the gate is tight, the road is one of pressure and hardship, and this is what the brothers are going through, man. Right? We're going through a pressure, testing, sifting. The scriptures call it in the book of Amos, right? Amos, the 9th chapter. This creates a sharp contrast. Wide gate plus spacious road, many enter, leads to destruction. Narrow gate, compressed, afflicted road, few find it, leads to life. Related words in the New Testament from the same root family: narrowness of space, distress, anguish, right? That was G4730. This is G4729. To be hemmed in, distressed, right? G4727. To groan, sigh from being in straits, right? Hey, what did the scriptures say? The sigh, cries and sighs of the saints. Okay, they that sigh and cry for the abominations done, right? That's in the book of Ezekiel, I believe. These show that the idea of narrowness in Greek easily moves into the realm of pressure, difficulty, and emotional, spiritual constriction. Okay, because even if you feel a certain way, you got to still keep going through it. You got to still do your job, fulfill the mission. Right? When Paul was done, he said, "Look, I've run the race. I've done my course. Okay, I fought the good fight." Right? The fight doesn't end on Saturday after camp. When you go home, there's still a fight, even if you're chilling with your woman. Right? It doesn't matter what you're doing. Okay, because there's a realm around you. There's spirits. There's things happening. The brothers had a saying. I forgot who said it, but pretty much the brothers like, whatever's happening is happening. One of the brothers is like, what do you mean? I got it. I understood. And we have to explain whatever's happening is happening, man. Like there's things in motion from the spirit realm. The Most High controls everything on the left and right hand side. So that's why the scripture says, though some strange thing happen unto you, you're catching this hell and things are rough. This is the Most High's way of testing you, sharpening you up, okay, making you more fitter, cleaning out your inward vessel, right? That's what you really want, because Yahushua talked about the Pharisees and Sadducees. Inward, they are dead men's sepulchres. Outside, they're polished vessels. They look clean and nice and shiny, right? It says number 7, theological weight. The word is not just about physical dimensions. In Yahushua's mouth, it carries the sense of a path that is restricted. Few find it. Demanding. Requires effort. See? Right? Demanding effort, because we're doing these videos. Right? We're doing these videos, and you're sacrificing your worldly pleasures, your so-called dreams, which we found out, is BS in this kingdom. This kingdom is all about corrupting yourself. The more fame and the more money you get, you corrupt yourself more. You miss kingdom. In the kingdom, in our kingdom, the Israelites are going to have fame and reputation and riches, but above all, they're going to have wisdom. Right? So it says demanding requires effort. Luke uses this Greek word, strive or agonize. Okay, so some brothers can't keep up. They gotta. That means, look, you gotta cut off certain things in the world, man. That means certain things are holding you back. When you can't keep going and you make excuses and you say this or that or the third, and you can't keep going because it's narrow, and you knew what you signed up for was gonna be fucking narrow anyway. You already knew. We from the first time you even didn't not even come into camp. If you're listening or whatever the case is through videos of the apostles warning, they told you it's going to be rough. It's not a fucking picnic. And there's stages of the sifting, man. So once you start getting deeper and the Most High starts adding, he wants more from you. He wants you to produce more fruit. He wants you to bud forth. But you got to cut off things in the world, man. Whatever's holding you back. Right? Strive or agonize. It can be agonizing, man. You can have terrible days. You still got to do your video. No matter how you feel. That's the mind of a Stoic. Costly. I like that. Costly. What did Yahushua say? Count the cost. You have to count. That's in the book of Luke. If you don't count the cost, then what's the point of you coming into this? That's stupid. You're very ignorant. You're blindly following. Right? Costly. The way is one of pressure and affliction. So that's why the pressure's on. You hear the apostles down to the bishops and elders rebuke. Brothers getting suspended. Brothers getting kicked out. Because there's pressure, man. This is not no fucking a walk in the park, man. Right? It's the Lord's business. Right? Exclusive, not the popular route. Who? Right? Ain't that the truth? Not the popular route. What did the scripture say in the book of Ecclesiastes? What did Solomon say? Yahushua, if you can receive it. Right? He said the pretty much the house of mourning is better than the house of feasting. But guess what? Everybody's going to the house of feasting. Everybody wants the house of fucking feasting because everybody wants a party. Right? Everybody wants a party. It is the opposite of an easy, accommodating, broad religious path. Okay? So this is not easy, this is not accommodating. But it is accommodating in the spirit. That's for sure. Now, I had this. Right, real quick. This is from the New Jerusalem Bible. Right, this is something that, again, I think Grok or either Chad got this for me. This is Sirach 2, modern Catholic translation, known for clear literary English while staying close to the original Hebrew Greek. Right, it says, here's the same passage. Again, for reference, my child, if you aspire to serve the Lord, prepare yourself for an ordeal. Be sincere of heart, be steadfast, and do not be alarmed when disaster comes. Cling to him and do not leave him. And that means through the darkness where you can't see, where you don't know where your next meal's from, you don't know what's going on. Sometimes it's like that. And it's really going to be like that in Jacob's trouble. I mean, you're talking about, you can be poor, but you got food banks, bro. You got, you know what I mean? You got welfare. You got bottom of the bottom resources, at least. Okay, at the very least. Okay, but the time you're coming into, yeah. It says 10. What does it say? 10 shall be left in a city, or 2 or something like that. One shall desire to hear the voice of another. So you get the drift. There's going to be a lot of judgment. And things are going to be disrupted. Societies and civil order is going to be disrupted. Right? So it says, cling to him and do not leave him, so that you may be honored at the end of your days. Whatever happens to you, accept it. And in the uncertainties of your humble state, be patient. See? That's a beautiful point. Sometimes you bow down to the Lord. You're in a humble state, man. Meaning you're taking the L's. People are laughing at you. You're in a terrible situation. Right? In the King James, it says, when you're changed to a low state, be patient. Okay? Think the prophets were not always, most of the time they were in a low state. They were persecuted, afflicted, mocked, scorned. There were times, of course, where the prophets were feared, of course, and revered. But for the most part, I mean, Elijah, during the time of Elijah, even Elijah wanted to die. He went under the tree, I think it was the oak tree. It was a big tree, and then he asked the Lord, look, just take me out. Because he was running from Jezebel, because it was after the time where he embarrassed the Baal's prophets. Right? About the Most High rained fire from heaven and consumed the sacrifice. And Jezebel threatened his life, and he got scared. It says in the scriptures, it says he got scared, right? Because we're men. What the hell? Even though he had spiritual power, he had to run for his life. And he was tired, man. He wanted to die. So this thing comes down to these moments sometimes. And look at him. He was translated. He was taken up in a chariot, man, alive. Can you imagine that? That means he was just putting his body up there. Right? And in the uncertainties of your humble state, be patient. Patient means what? To suffer. Since gold is tested in the fire, and the chosen in the and again, it keeps mentioning gold. Gold requires a more higher melting point than silver, right? Some brothers are silver, some brothers are gold. So you got to remember that gold, what differs with gold is it requires more heat because it has a higher melting point, because there's more impurities that have to come out of gold, right? And the chosen in the furnace of humiliation, right? The foolishness of preaching, right? We're on the internet, we put our face out there, we're doing this work in sincerity and in truth, right? We believe. Trust him and he will uphold you. Follow a straight path and hope in him. That's it, man. Blind faith, right? You walk. Paul said, "I walk by faith, not by sight." And in the book of Eli, Denzel mentioned that to the chick, right? She's like, "Where are you going?" He said, "West." And she kept asking questions, and he's like, "I walk by faith, not by sight." And she's like, "What does that mean?" Right? But anyway, Shalom, Kahala, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Shalom to the elect, Kwam Yasharallah.